everyone, this is Mr. Ben, back with another edition of Know Your History. We're standing in the graveyard of St. Joseph's Roman Catholic Church, the Old Cemetery. And right behind me is the church, which, not the original church. This particular church, if you can see right behind me, was built in 1899. The original building was erected over on Church Street in 1860. And then it was more parishioners were buried here in the cemetery. They had to move the church or build another church, that is, and this is the current structure on Broad Street. Now, this monument to this gentleman, Patrick Toole, he was a soldier in the Civil War, and he served in the 24th New Jersey Infantry. Now, the 28th New Jersey Infantry, and the 28th was a 9-month regiment. He was in Company G. Company G is from Gloucester County, and he fought at the Battle of Fredericksburg and the Battle of Chancellorsville. And if you know anything about the Civil War, those two battles were unmitigated Union disasters. But he survived, and he also, when his 9 months of service were up in 1864, he joined another regiment, the 38th New Jersey, for 1 year of service. Now, his brother John, which we're going to go visit, he also served with Patrick. This is Patrick Toole. Now, John's buried right over here. You want to follow me on. Now, this is Patrick's brother John Toole, and he's also served in the 28th New Jersey, but was discharged for an unnamed disability in February of 1863. Later, he also signed on with the 38th New Jersey for a year of service. Only the day after he signed up, he deserted. But then he did return to the regiment without any apparent repercussions, and served until the expiration of the service at the end of the war on June 30th, 1865. His headstone's very interesting. It has this, looks like a log sitting on the top of his gravestone, and that's probably symbolic of, from the Bible, the tree of life, or it could also mean getting back to nature, but it's a very ornate tombstone, very picturesque. So that's John Toole and Patrick Toole, and I'm going to take you over here. Now, this soldier is Patrick Cannon. This is one of my favorite stories. Patrick Cannon was an Irishman who came to America when he was just 18 years of age. And he was working as a farmhand in Harrisonville, New Jersey, when the war erupted in 1861, and he promptly signed on to serve in the Union forces of his adopted country. And he was a soldier in the 12th New Jersey. 12th New Jersey is a famous regiment, and all South Jersey regiment in our area, and he served in Company C. Now, the 12th New Jersey's first battle was the Battle of Chancellorsville. And in that battle, Patrick Cannon was wounded, shot in the hand. But as he was wounded, at that moment, the rebels overran the Union line where the 12th New Jersey was, causing the regiment to retreat. But Patrick Cannon was unable to retreat, so he lay down. He pretended to be dead. And as he was lying there, rather stout rebel soldier came up and stomped on his chest to make sure that, as he said, here's one Yank that won't fight anymore. And he stomped on his chest. Now, the story goes that he was wounded in the hand and he got a medical discharge, but for the rest of his life, Patrick Cannon bore the mark of that rebel boot on his chest. Now, I don't know if you believe that or not, but if you do, there's a bridge in Brooklyn that I'd like to talk to you about. I hear it's for sale. But, you know, it could be true, but then it might also be what the Irish say, what they call, you know, malarkey. But it makes an interesting story. Patrick Cannon survived the war and was a prominent citizen here in Woolwich. So that's Patrick Cannon. Let me take you over here. Now this is Michael McKean. Michael McKean was an Irishman. He was brought to America by his parents when he was young, and he was killed at the Battle of Fort Fisher. He served as a landsman aboard the USS Gettysburg. Now he's the reason why I'm dressed in this hot wool sailor suit. He would have worn the blues on January 15th, 1865, the day that he was killed in an assault on Fort Fisher. Now, Fort Fisher was a fort that guarded the last port that was open to blockade runners to supply the Confederacy. That was Wilmington, North Carolina. But this is January in 1865, and the ring is closing in on the Confederates. So the Union Brain Trust was determined to capture this fort and take the port of Wilmington and cut off supplies to Lee's besieged army at Petersburg, Virginia. Now, Michael McKean was on the USS Gettysburg. His ship, along with some 60 ships, bombarded the fortress for 4 hours, dismounting several Confederate cannons, but not all. And Admiral David Dixon Porter asked for volunteers among the sailors and Marines to assault the fort, and Michael McKean volunteered. Sadly, he was killed in that assault, as the sailors charged only with their revolvers and cutlasses, not good weapons against Confederates who came out of their bomb proofs, manned the cannons, and were firing canister and grape shot at these hapless sailors and Marines. The silver lining to this story is, while the sailors and Marines were attacking the sea face of the fort, or the eastern side, over on the western side, the Union Army, which had been landed above the fort, they were making their way into the fort, and eventually by nightfall, after several hours of hard hand-to-hand fighting, were able to capture Fort Fisher. I'm not sure if Michael McKean is actually buried here. This might be a cenotaph. It says, in memory of Michael McKean. It doesn't say, here lies Michael McKean. Many of the sailors and soldiers who were killed at Fort Fisher are buried at the cemetery, National Cemetery at Wilmington, North Carolina. But he may indeed be buried here, but this is his family, and this is his gravestone to his memory. And over here we have, this is the Reverend Antonio Cassese. He was born in Italy, in Naples, and he was the first parish priest, a permanent parish priest, before when more and more people were more and more Catholics. This is a time when there was a lot of anti-Catholic bias in the community in this area, but there more Catholics were going to church here, and they needed a permanent priest. So this was the first priest who assumed his duties in 1872 and served here until he died in 1886. And he's buried here, and you see his stone is quite overgrown. I've got one more I want to show you. This is William Swain. He was a soldier in World War I. And as you could read from his stone, he was killed in France in the Meuse-Argonne forest in the American offensive near the end of the war in October of 1918. And he's buried in France in the American cemetery in Lorraine, France. The family erected a stone here to his memory, but as it says, buried in France, he's not really buried here. Now, there used to be an American Legion post on Franklin Street, right by the lake, that was the William H. Swain Post 123. It's now a private residence. It's still standing, but that used to be the American Legion post that was named in his honor. Well, that's all I have today for you. We're here in St. Joseph's Roman Catholic Church Cemetery. Hope you'll join me next time for another edition of Know Your History. So, smooth sailing, and I'll see you next time.